of the Marvel universe wasn't something I'd ever really pursued per se, but when this came along, I was really excited to learn more. And Kate Herron, our director, pitched the whole 6 episodes to me over the phone in about 2 hours, which was kind of mind-blowing to get my head around the scope and scale of the TVA and this whole new element of the world. But yeah, and then, you know, the idea of being a part of a Loki show, you know, an anti-hero, a mischievous character that everybody knows and loves, and to be able to see, you know, new layers to his journey was really cool. And then my character, Ravonna Renslayer, a character I wasn't necessarily familiar with, but, you know, understanding that she's a judge, she's authoritative, she's respected and powerful, and she has sort of morally, you know, complex decisions to make. I don't know, I found the whole thing really intriguing, and also just the chance to, you know, do some action, some fights, some you know, more physical, you know, comic book kind of stuff was really enticing. So what attracted me to the part of Ravonna Renslayer was really the fact that this is almost her origin story, if you like, and she obviously has a whole life in the comics. But for me to be able to play a judge, this authoritative figure who's powerful and respected, I hadn't really played a character like that before, you know, with that kind of gravitas. So I was excited for the challenge of that, and also the fact that she has this backstory as a hunter coming up the ranks from a military background. So knowing that she, you know, is tough and has really, you know, risen up the ranks through her own sheer grit and determination was really exciting. And then just also the dynamic with Mobius, Owen Wilson's character, I thought would be really fun. As you know, she's his boss essentially, and he's sort of this maverick agent that you know, has these sort of harebrained, more sort of reckless ideas, and she's always trying to sort of tow him to line, you know, and with the timekeepers as well. So I thought there was just a lot of, you know, scope for some fun dynamics to play. It was so great working with our director, Kate Herron. She's just amazing, and what was wonderful is that she is directing all 6 episodes, so it was really cool to feel like we were essentially doing one long movie. You know, sometimes in TV you have different directors, you know, almost every couple of weeks, and with this, you know, Kate really was the vision, and the vision was, you know, from her from beginning to end. So that's really great as an actor to have that kind of continuity. And she's just so thorough and so passionate about the world, and, you know, so detailed and great with actors. You know, she's got this really calm, centered energy about her. Yeah, I just loved working with her. I'm so excited for what she does next. I had such a great time working with both Tom Hiddleston and Owen Wilson. The dynamics with our characters are quite different, I would say. You know, initially with Tom, who I knew a little bit from drama school many years ago. We were at drama school at the same time, so that was nice already to have that shared experience. But also, you know, his character, obviously, as everyone knows, the god of mischief. He's cheeky, he breaks the rules, and Renslayer is sort of the opposite end of the spectrum. You know, she's very sort of straight and steady, and, you know, she respects the rules and authority, and she is the authority. So when they first meet, it's kind of a fun sort of clash, personality clash, because, you know, he doesn't have any of his powers at his disposal. She's not used to anyone being so disrespectful towards her, and so that was really fun to play in the courtroom. And then in terms of Owen's character, Mobius, you know, that's a slightly different dynamic and was really fun to work on, because Ravonna and Mobius have a sort of long-standing friendship. They've worked together for many years, and I think she has a bit of a soft spot for him in her heart. But she's also very professional. She's worked her way up the ladder, and she's not going to let anything compromise where she's got to in her career. So but he is still able to kind of charm her and sort of disarm her in a way that she probably allows him to get away with a bit more than she would any of the other agents in the TVA. So it's fun because it gives us a chance to show sort of the public and private sides of Ravonna, her sort of more professional facade that she uses in the TVA, but then in her office when she's sort of unwinding, after a long, difficult day and sort of chatting with Mobius, we get to see a more relaxed side to her, and maybe even a bit of a sense of humour. So that's kind of fun. The sets on the show were amazing, and they were so detailed. I have to say, the production design, it was just like sort of having looked at some of the imagery and the concept art, and then to step onto the sets, it's like stepping into the drawing. I mean, it was so transformative, and especially Renslayer's office, my character's office, with the timekeepers, the statues of the timekeepers and the big desk and the drinks cabinet and the reel-to-reel tape player, that essence of that sort of 50s modern style, almost Mad Men-esque tone to her world, but obviously with a TVA twist, and then some of the other sets, and sets that I didn't even get to act on, but I just sort of peeked at, for other scenes and other places where the show goes. There's just such a big scope and scale to them, which is really
I'm a fan of the MCU and the sci-fi genre, so having a chance to direct Loki was honestly a dream come true. Like, I love the character. I think he has one of the best arcs across the MCU for the last 10 years, and I've always loved sci-fi, and I've always wanted to direct big, bold genre stories, and it was these two things I really love coming together, so I'm just really excited to share that with everyone. So my vision for the series, I always try and have like a central question every time I go into a story, and I really wanted to explore, like, is anyone truly good or truly bad, and can we move past our actions in the past? Will they always define us, or can we move past those? And I think Loki is a fantastic example of that, and also that gray area between good and bad. And I was really keen to kind of talk about Loki's identity and just where he will travel in our story. So I would say the theme of the series is about self and identity, but within a giant sci-fi mystery story that I would say has a lot of heart, and it's Loki, right? So it's going to have a lot of wit as well. The most important elements for me that I wanted to bring to the series was honestly just really giving Loki a chance to shine, because he's only had, I think it's 79 minutes of screen time across the other MCU films, and I really wanted to make the 6 hours worth it and dig into things that maybe we couldn't have spoke about before, like within a 2 hour time. So I think it really gave us a chance to really dig into his character. It was really important to me to have practical sets across the show because, we were setting up a whole new corner of the MCU, and I was really inspired by films like Eternal Sunshine and Scott Pilgrim, both in like very heightened, fantastical settings. But I really wanted our characters to be able to set, for example, in episode 1, you see Loki and Mobius exit an elevator, walk down a very long hallway and go into the time theater. And we practically built that. But for me, the TVA is this very fantastical place that exists outside of space and time, but I still wanted it to feel like a real place that we could understand. And I think I love doing long takes, and I really was excited by the idea of that, like having these kind of realities that we could play in. And it was really important to both me and Kazra and Autumn, the whole team, and Kazra's the production designer and Autumn's my DP, again just in keeping the style and trying to make the TVA feel grounded and real in obviously a very fantastical setting. So working with Tom was a dream. He's a very generous actor, and he's lovely, and he's very studious like I am. And Owen, I am I adore. I think his work is fantastic, both as an actor and writer. So I think the fun thing with both of them is like Owen is sort of representing order within this bureaucracy, and Tom obviously is chaotic, is playing Loki. And I think bringing together that order and chaos, I think it's just such a beautiful thing to behold, because the first episode really is like this chess match between these two characters. And I think the fun of it is like we couldn't have predicted obviously the chemistry that they would both have together, and I just think it's electric. You can't predict that, but as soon as we were rolling cameras, it was just like, oh, there's something very special going on here. So yes, I'm just excited for everyone to see it. I think what viewers should expect when they sit down to watch Loki is a really fun, sprawling sci-fi story, but with a character that we all love at the center on a very new journey.
My first thoughts when I came on to the Loki series as the writer was just, okay, I'm very excited. And then my second thought was, wow, I got a lot of work to do. I think that there were two big challenges ahead of us right out the gate. The first of which was there'd been 10 years of stories featuring Loki. Here we were doing a 6-hour TV show. How are we going to do something new? We had to break new ground with this character. That was really important. And then the second challenge was just, it's a time travel show. So how are we going to depict time travel in a way that it can withstand week-to-week scrutiny from our very smart fans? And so excitement followed by paralyzing fear. With the Time Variance Authority, I drew inspiration first off from the comics. I familiarized myself with all of their appearances in the comics in different runs of Thor, Fantastic Four, She-Hulk as well. And then from there, I also leaned on Kevin Wright and Stephen Broussard, our two on-the-ground creative producers from Marvel, who had been doing a lot of research on the TVA even before I came on board. And then I just watched a lot of time travel movies. Back to the Future, Looper, Time Cop, Time Crimes, different stuff like that, just seeing the ways that what are the different kinds of time travel rules? What are the different ways that time travel rules are established and held up in different movies and everything? And then I just figured out, all right, what do we want to rip off? And so the first episode starts as Loki picks up the Tesseract during the events of Avengers Endgame and disappears through that Space Stone portal. And I think that it's the perfect place for this series to start, because the god of mischief and chaos has just done the most chaotic thing possible. He's picked up this thing, gotten away from the Avengers when he was not supposed to. Where is he going to go? What's supposed to happen next? That's where the TVA comes in, and so that's why it was just a very exciting jumping off point. In the Loki series, we're going to see Loki in ways that we've never seen him, mainly because we're going to see so much of him. There's 6 episodes, and he's center stage. He's not backseat to Thor, and he's not a villain in this one. He's the center of this show. And so we're going to be able to explore his own personality, his own shortcomings, and sort of like excavate his feelings in a way that you've never been able to in movies before. As a writer, that's really exciting, because you're just going to get to go more in depth on a character that everybody already loved from the movies, and now they're just going to get to spend that much more time with him. It was really helpful to have 6 episodes to tell this Loki story, because it's just more time. and that means that we can afford to luxuriate in the quieter moments, where I think that's where some of the greatest drama comes from. In a 2 or 3 hour movie, the pace has to be nonstop, and there's so much that you've got to keep moving. There were opportunities to digress into more character-based moments, like all great television does in this, and that was the reason it was really exciting to do 6 hours. I think the most challenging aspect of writing the series was probably just the creation and definition of the rules of time travel. We had to create an institutional knowledge among the writing staff and the creative staff. Just what does the TVA do? Why do they do it? What is a time law and how is it broken? And once we'd done that, we had to then figure out a way to communicate it to the audience in a manner that wasn't boring and didn't distract you from the more compelling stuff with characters and the broader story. So that was our biggest challenge for sure. I'm going to say rascal. It's a word I use a lot to describe Loki and Mobius, and it's just they're two guys that they're always sort of pushing the rules, pushing the boundaries. You never quite know what they're going to get up to next, and even though they're both very different, it seems on the surface, they're sort of united in that, the fact that they're rascals.
Well, it's exciting to be a part of the MCU, and also to be sort of working on this series that is kind of introducing kind of a whole new storyline and showing the Marvel fans, introducing them to a new world. What attracted me to the role of Mobius is when I spoke with the director and Kate walked me through the dynamic that would exist between Loki and Mobius, and it just sounded like something that was kind of interesting, the way it was going to sort of be a little bit of a chess match, and and are these guys, is it just a business where Mobius is using Loki? Is there any feeling behind there? It's just there's kind of interesting nuances to play. Mobius, I think that is what sort of, if anything, can help keep him on equal footing and stay, a couple steps ahead of Loki. It's the fact that he has the TVA behind him, and what the TVA kind of represents, this sort of power to control the timeline. And so the fact that I'm able to know things about Loki that he doesn't even know about himself gives me a certain power over him, and helps me to negotiate with him. Yeah, I think that the relationship between Loki and my character Mobius is very fluid. It's, they're two people that if there's a way for them to sort of use each other for their agenda, they'll do that. And I think in a way, even though you can't trust Loki, that they're in not being able to trust him and knowing that about him, Mobius does in a way trust him, if that makes any sense. Well, I know that what really helped me with this character was, the whole look that the character had, but even the sets that had been designed for this. I think visually, this series is certainly going to be one of the most interesting things that I've worked on, and the look and the sort of what the TVA, the paranoia, sort of big brother aspect to it, that is going to be, I think that's going to be, disconcerting and interesting to people. Yeah, my experience working with Kate, and what I appreciated, about Kate's background and shows that she had worked on was that she was very open and encouraging to any ideas that we had, and kind of explaining if I did have a question about sort of the kind of what exactly was happening sometimes. And so it's just very easy to talk to, and then working with Tom was great, and I really appreciated kind of the time before we started filming where he kind of, we call it the Loki school, kind of explaining the whole MCU and all his sort of his character's journey, because a lot of that helped inform the way my character related to him. What I hope fans experience in watching this show is that that we're taking them into a new world, and that they're seeing something they haven't seen yet in the MCU, and that it's a story that that they're going to find, I think, compelling.
My first thoughts when I realized that Loki was going to have a series created for him were mostly surprise and delight, because I quite recently had filmed the scene in Avengers Infinity War, and most people who've seen that film know what happens to Loki in that moment. So I thought this is wonderful, but how are we going to do this? Because what happens. So yeah, I was so excited, and I was so thrilled. I felt very honoured that Marvel, the producers at Marvel Studios, had wanted to make a show about Loki, and then really excited about where we would go. And they were very generous and inclusive in asking me what I thought I hadn't explored yet as the character. Because we covered quite a lot of ground in the Thor movies and in the Avengers movies, but there were still things in various bits of research I'd done over the years, which I thought, we haven't done that, we could explore this, and they were gracious enough to include some of my ideas, but most of the best ones did not belong to me. So in terms of the bits of Loki that you haven't seen before, what's interesting is that in this show, it's the Loki you know in a world you don't know. And he's stripped of all the things that are familiar. There's no Thor, there's no Odin, there's no Frigga, there's no Asgard, he doesn't even have his clothes or his magical powers. And so the question for me was, without those things, what remains? What makes Loki Loki? And the TVA, this organization, this institution that governs the order of time, is extremely confronting for him. It sort of is a mirror for himself, and he's forced to integrate some of the things perhaps he's always run from, some of the aspects of his life and his interior life, and driven towards a curiosity about finding out more. So yeah, I don't want to spoil too much, but he's still the same guy. Charming, witty, charismatic on the outside, broken, fragmented, and a bit isolated on the inside. But there's room for maneuver, and maybe there's a chance he can change. We'll see. As an actor, what I loved about playing Loki in this series was particularly taking the things that I feel we had built about the character over time, and then putting him in new scenarios with new characters, working with Owen Wilson and Gugu Mbatha Raw and Wumi Masaku and Sophia Di Martino and so many more. I don't want to spoil who they are and who they're playing, but these new, fresh dynamics with all of the energy that these new actors bring, and therefore kind of creating new connections and that in itself revealing stuff. That's the most exciting aspect of it for me as an actor. is working with other actors and seeing their brilliant ideas and how generous they are. Particularly those actors I've mentioned, they were just great, and so that feels very fresh and very near. Yeah. You know, one of the things I remembered about looking into Loki when I was starting out was trying to remind myself that Loki is the god of mischief, and mischief is as much a part of his identity as Thor is the god of thunder, and the way he swings that hammer and creates the lightning and the storm is a huge part of who Thor is. So mischief seemed to me to be a kind of guiding influence on the tone. And if you look up mischief in the dictionary, it says abstract noun, inclination to playfulness. I thought, okay, so everything just has to be, it can be quite profound, it can be dramatic, but keep the strain of playfulness in there. And I thought, the Loki series wouldn't be Loki without a bit of mischief. So I think all the humor comes from that twinkly, cheeky, slightly disruptive strain of humor that I think is threaded through the series. So yeah, Mobius is very confronting for Loki, because Loki's someone who's used to being in control, and he knows the cards in his hand and how he's going to play them. And I think Mobius is detached, and Loki's a bit confused because his usual tricks and sort of powers of persuasion don't work on Mobius, who seemed kind of rather amused by it. And so Mobius and Loki develop a unlikely and possibly unstable game of trust, really, which is they both realize they need each other, but they're not sure if they can trust each other, which makes it very fun. And Owen himself was just a complete delight. He was so playful and so prepared, and brought so many great ideas, and it was such a new flavor, for Loki. I think I loved it. I can't say enough good things about Kate Herron. She joined the project about 7 or 8 months before we started, and the first time I met her I'll never forget, because I think it was quite soon after she had pitched her vision for the series to the producers at Marvel, and it was the most detailed and most passionate and most extraordinary vision I couldn't have. It was just amazing what she prepared. It was so passionate, and she had done so much work already and had so many brilliant ideas. And she was very respectful. She knows that the character of Loki means a lot to a lot of people, and that these stories already have an established place in the audience's minds, and she was so respectful of that, but also brought so many brilliant new ideas to the table. She told me once, we went for a walk around Central Park in New York, and she said, the one thing I never stop doing, Tom, is I never stop working. And now that I'm at the other side of the experience, I can tell you that's absolutely true. She worked so hard and so creatively. She was just brilliant. Really respectful, really kind, very, very generous. And I think what she's done with this series is exemplary. I think when Loki starts streaming on June 9th, viewers can look forward to seeing the Loki they know in a world they don't know. And I think that's the most exciting aspect for me. And I hope for them. This guy it's the Loki from Avengers 1. His ego is a bit bruised, but he's still got some good ideas. He's witty, he's charming, he's charismatic, he's broken, he's isolated, he's fragmented, but there's still room for maneuver, and there's still time, even though the series is kind of about time, but there's still time for things to change, and I think that's the most exciting aspect. Loki he's been on one journey through Ragnarok, Dark World, Ragnarok, and Infinity War, and this is another journey, and I can't wait for audiences to see it.
I'm so excited to be a part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Like, I fell in love with Marvel after watching Black Panther, and I was convinced that I needed to be a part of the universe after that, and so I was really, really excited and humbled to get offered this part in Loki. What I love about Hunter B15 is that she's a stickler for the rules, and I think that's something that I kind of am too. I do not like breaking the rules, like, not really. I mean, sometimes I do, but I guess sometimes we all have to, right? But yeah, I really love that she is someone who, like, right and wrong is something that motivates her. It's like she wants to constantly be on the good side of history, of, you know, and that's something that I really admire about her. Yeah. I don't know how similar we are. I feel like that not wanting to break the rules definitely feels similar, but she's quite a lot tougher than me. She can handle herself in a way that I definitely cannot. So Hunter B15 is a hunter for the TVA, and basically her job is to catch variants of people who disrupt the timeline. And the TVA is there in order to keep the timeline in its perfect condition. And so that's what B15, that's her goal, her only, like, you know, that's the only thing that drives her, is making sure that this order is in place and remains in place. Yeah, it was really fun to play opposite Owen. Our characters have such different ideas of doing things, and yeah, like, she's the stickler for the rules, and he's kind of like, oh, let's go left all the time. And so they're just so different. They're just so different in the way they handle things, and it's this kind of constant shifting to kind of get some sort of, like, balance of, like, and unity, but the goal is still the same. The goal is still the TVA. It's just their route to that order is a little different. I loved working with Kate. Kate Herron is an absolute sweetheart, and she's so passionate about our world and us as people and our characters and the Marvel universe. Like, she's totally she's a dream. She's actually just a dream. I love her. I really love her, and I'm so grateful that she cast me in this, because yeah, I feel like it needed to be her or else I may not be here, you know. She's great. So we had stunt training every day pre-pandemic. We had stunt training, and we would do, like, drills, so, like, kind of figure out how a hunter, you know, the training that a hunter would have gone through, we basically were trying to emulate that. And so we all kind of did the same thing, so we all had the same physical vocabulary and understanding of our costumes and how our props worked. So yeah, it was quite physical. Yeah, it was an everyday kind of, you know, check in and make sure we got it right. It was a dream working with Tom. Tom is he's a sweetheart, and he was my third year at drama school, so I was his first year, so I was always looking up to him, and so it was really quite like, you know, you get a little bit nervous when it's someone who's the years above you. You feel that kind of like, oh, that's my third year. And he was just really like open and warm and got us all into this world and made us feel like we were always a part of it. And yeah, so it was great. Tom's totally dedicated to us all being our best, and that's quite special. So he would take time to run lines with you, and he really did take time to run lines with you, which was like I've never had another actor just go through like my monologue like 50 times. He's a dream. He really is.
How does it feel to take your place in the Marvel Cinematic Universe?
To take my place in the Marvel Cinematic Universe feels so exciting, a little bit overwhelming, and I'm very grateful to be here.
What attracted you to the part of Sylvie, and what do you like most about her?
I think what attracted me to the part of Sylvie is how sort of broken she is. I find it interesting to play characters who are damaged and who wear sort of a lot of armor, but you know, they also get a chance to show their vulnerability, and within that I find, you know, that the most fun stuff to play. She's also really funny, and she gets some funny lines, which is always fun.
As an actor, what was your approach to getting into the character?
So my approach to getting into the character was to, you know, do my research. So I watched all of Tom's stuff and rewatched the films, and then I sort of tried to forget about it, and you know, because I really didn't want to just do an impression of Tom's Loki, because that would have been really bad, because I'm terrible at impressions. So I just wanted to make it my own. I think a lot of it started with the fighting style, because one of the first things we did in prep was to start working with the stunt team and work on the fight scenes. There was a lot to learn, and we were really keen on Sylvie being quite sort of rough with her fighting style. You know, she's a street fighter, she's a brawler, she's not a trained martial artist or anything like that. She just uses her strength and her sort of bravery to get through each fight, and I think she quite enjoys fighting. She enjoys the adrenaline of it and the rush of it, and you know, gets a kick out of the fight, and that told me a lot about her character, that she's this sort of feral cat almost, who, you know, will pick a fight because she knows she can win, or she knows that she'll survive if she doesn't win. Yeah, and I think that's where it started for me.
How did the director, Kate Herron, help you approach the character?
Kate has just been so supportive right from the beginning. I mean, I knew Kate already, and we were pals. So, you know, she right from the beginning, she was like, so, you know, I want you to just have fun with this. Make her your own. Do whatever you like. You know, improvise. You know, throw whatever you like at this, and I'll be there watching, and you know, if something doesn't work, I'll politely let you know. So she was just a great person to have around, to sort of rein me in when it was getting too much, or to, you know, give me a thumbs up when it was working. Just a really a great director to have at our side, to just trust 100%.
Tell us about working with Tom Hiddleston.
Working with Tom was such a dream. He's just such a charming, polite, sort of generous human being. He has all the time in the world for this show, and he chucks every bit of his energy into it. he cares so much, and I've never seen work ethic like it. He's inspiring, and I think it filtered down to all of us. He was just such a great sort of lead in a way to have as the sort of head of this incredible journey that we've all been on for the past year and a half. And he's become a dear friend.
Sylvia's in a lot of action scenes. Can you tell us a little bit about the training and about learning fight moves?
So we started training really early in the process, and we would do sort of sword drills and boxing drills and a lot of martial arts drills, basically just to sort of get into our bodies a little bit more. And it was super challenging. I just had a baby and I wasn't really in that space. I had a lot of work to do to get fit and active again, and it was challenging but so much fun, and I really enjoyed sort of learning those moves and learning how to do a roundhouse kick. It's quite a cool skill to have, isn't it?
And finally, tell us about the look and feel of the show.
I think the show looks beautiful, and I think a lot of that is down to Kate Herron, the director. She had such a strong vision for the show, and I love it. Like all the colours and the different worlds that we end up in, the different locations, all so different, but each have such a strong, unique sort of look on them. And I think Kate was really keen on it looking, beautiful, and I think she took a lot of references from like Blade Runner and shows like and movies like that. And the feel of it is also sort of this apocalyptic sort of epic adventure, but it's also funny, and there's so many facets to it, which is hopefully why people are enjoying it so much. There's something for everyone.
You're now part of the MCU. How does that feel?
It is so exciting to be part of the MCU. I've played many characters in the animated universe of Marvel, but this feels like a big level up, and so exciting to be a part of such an extraordinary series. I love this show so much. I look forward to watching it every Wednesday along with the other fans, and I feel so grateful that I got to play alongside Tom Hiddleston and the rest of the cast. Everyone is so brilliant, and it's just been such a fun journey, and I'm so grateful to the fans for loving Miss Minutes right away. She's just so much fun to play.
Tell us about Miss Minutes. What is she, and what is her role in the TVA?
Miss Minutes is an extraordinary character. Nobody really knows who she is, if she's sentient, if she's AI. At my audition, I was unclear. I remember asking my agent to get more information, and she couldn't. And I think it's this character that is growing and changing and is so intriguing. I love playing her. In the beginning, we just see exposition from her on a video, but then we learn that she's capable of being a hologram and interacting with characters in real world, and it's been so much fun. And I think Kate Herron, Michael Waldron, the entire team behind the show have done such a brilliant job at having an animated character interacting with an on-camera world, particularly an on-camera world that's already so well known and so beloved, and I think they've done it seamlessly. And she's this really fun character that can say the most devastating things with the cutest accent. She's basically saying, if you don't do the right thing, you could die, but she could be saying, come on over for some pie, and she's so much fun to play.
Speaking of that, did you model your voice or delivery after any references in particular, especially like her Southern accent? Where did that idea come from?
I didn't model her after any character or human that I had heard. In the audition, they said they were open to doing an accent, and so I did one with my own voice, one a little bit more AI, and then one with this accent that they seemed to like. And then on the day when I got to meet Kate and the rest of the team, we played around with how much of an accent she would have, and it was a very collaborative process to build and mold this voice to make it perfect to suit this character.
So, speaking a little more on that, Miss Minutes is such a fun character for the audience. Tell us about working with director Kate Herron and to put the right spin on her.
When I first met Kate, I have to admit I didn't really know much about her career, and I've completely fallen head over heels in love with her. She's a visionary. She's a force. She knows what she wants, and she can ask for it without being a tyrant. She doesn't seem to have an inflated ego. She's so brilliant and so modest, and it was wonderful to have her participate and really give so many ideas for each and every moment. And each and every moment was crafted with her by my side, and I would work with her again in a heartbeat. I'm all in with Kate Herron. I think she's the one to be watched for sure.
What was the most challenging part of voicing Miss Minutes?
I'd say the most challenging part would be in moments where there was a bunch of action going on, like the scene where Loki's swatting her at her desk, because we really wanted to make sure they were very authentic. So it wasn't really challenging, more that those moments gave a lot more time, because we really wanted to craft each moment and have them all be believable. So each moment had maybe 10, 20, 30 different noises and beats and moments to then let the production team work with and slide into place to make sure they were right. You know, for instance, in the scene where she's jumping into the computer, they let me improvise, and there were different versions of "bye now," or "that's rude," or "don't come back," or whatever it was, and we got to play with a bunch of different things. So that was probably the most work we had done on a scene, to really orchestrate each and every moment.
Touched a little on this, but what did you enjoy most about the experience?
This is one of the rare occasions where you're doing a voiceover where you get to see it completed. Normally in voiceover we go first and then they animate to our voice. The only time we get to see something completed is if we're dubbing a foreign film project or TV series. And so to get to see a completed, beautifully shot, as far as I'm concerned, perfect show, and then to play off these very brilliant actors was such a treat. Every single moment of this experience was pinch me, is this happening? Because it was so well done, and I love when imagination has the funds and the right people behind it to make it extraordinary, and they really did.